Hey there, Python trainer Reuven Lerner here, and today I want to show you one of the most amazing technological advances I've seen in a very long time. I'm talking, of course, about ChatGPT. I know, you're thinking, I'm a little late to this game. I'm recording this in May 2023. ChatGPT has been around for an awfully long time, for like 6 months already, which I guess is not really an awfully long time, but in computer years it is. Anyway, I want to walk you through how ChatGPT can be used to retrieve data, create Jupyter notebooks, and even produce queries and plots. Now, I wanted to set this up, so it's going to take a little bit of time for me to just show you what's going on. And whereas I usually don't edit my videos very much, I try to just walk you through what I'm doing and show it to you in real time. This time I am going to actually do some editing, and that's just because some of these things take a long time. So let's step back for a moment to the beginning. I am assuming you know about ChatGPT. Everyone's been talking about it for about 6 months now. And if you go to the ChatGPT site at chat.openai.com and you have a free login, you will be presented with the GPT 3.5 model. And as we see, if I hover over it, it says this is our fastest model, great for most everyday tasks. And that is true. GPT 3.5 is a fine model for doing an awful lot of stuff. And for the last few months, they've been offering what they call ChatGPT Plus, a paid plan where you pay $20 a month and then you get faster access. You won't get those annoying messages that the system is overburdened right now. Fine. I was actually kind of cheap and I decided not to go for that until I discovered that if you sign up for ChatGPT Plus, you get access to another model, a second model, GPT-4. And as it says here, if you hover over it, our most capable model, great for tasks that require creativity and advanced reasoning. There is no doubt that GPT-4 is smarter and better. Other people have written and shown stuff about that. But there are two pieces to this that I think are interesting as well, and which changed in just the last few days. If you go down here, you can see it says Browsing and Plugins. Plugins is where it's really at. Plugins are, well, I mean, we know what plugins are for all sorts of software systems, right? There are now plugins for GPT-4. And if I click on that, well, we'll see here a little menu. I've already gone through the process of choosing plugins, but let's take a look at what it looks like. You get this menu here. And if I go down here to the plugin store, it will show me all the different plugins that are currently available for ChatGPT Plus users when they're using the GPT-4 model. So you have to be a paid user and you have to be on GPT-4. And then you can install any or all of these plugins. So if I look at, popular ones, very interesting, nice, Zapier, I'm not doing this video about Zapier, but boy, oh boy, you can do amazing stuff about Zapier, on and on. Lots of different things that you can install. You can look through the new ones only. You look through all of them and go through them. And just a few days ago when I started using these plugins, I think there were 10 pages. Now there's 16 pages. So clearly a lot of people are adding plugins. One plugin that I want to show you is Noteable. And I'm going to go to the Noteable site in just a moment. I just want to show you when you want to install a plugin, you click on Install. If you want to uninstall, then you click on Uninstall. That's pretty intuitive. What they don't tell you at any point is that you can only have 3 plugins installed and activated at any time. So I went and I installed a whole bunch of different plugins, but then here up at the top it says 3 out of 3 are enabled. So I have installed and enabled Noteable, which I'll tell you more about in a moment, World News, because it will give me access to news headlines. We'll look at that in a moment. And Zapier, just because, oh my God, it's so cool. Again, that's the time for another video. So what is this Noteable? Now, I want to tell you, I'd never ever heard of Noteable before, aside from knowing that some famous people in the Python community are associated with it, until about a month ago when I was at PyCon US in Salt Lake City. I saw their booth, I went up to them, I chatted with people there. I actually have a meeting with them in a few days to talk about maybe using their product. I am a free user of the product, I'm not paying, and everything I'm going to do here is just as a free user from the outside. So what is Noteable? If you go to Noteable.io, and that's Noteable with N-O-T-E, Noteable, it's a company that's offering data analysis with Jupyter Notebooks. And you might be saying, Jupyter Notebooks, right? Like, I've been using Jupyter Notebooks for a while. That's true. You can think of Noteable as providing us with Jupyter Notebooks on steroids. So if I go to get started, I guess I have to go to my login here. It's a free sign up. I signed up for free. You then have to create, let's see what we got here. Here we go. So it's going to show me my space. So this is like, not to be confused with MySpace. That's gone away a long time ago. So this is Reuven's space here. Okay, not gonna leave a review. And Reuven's space, because I logged in and I signed up before. Again, it's a free sign up. You just have to then confirm with your email. And I created a project. And you can think of a project as like a directory in which you're going to put all of your Jupyter notebooks. That I'm going to need, and I called mine ChatGPT Playground. And this is actually important. In the URL, you'll see it says app notable IO P, and that has this long list of hex digits here, and then the name of your project. We're going to need this. I'm going to keep this tab open. We're going to come back to it in just a moment. So what we have is ChatGPT-4, the GPT-4 model. I'm in ChatGPT Plus, which gives me access to the 4 model. I have the Noteable plugin installed, and I have it also activated. So what? What can I do with this? Now, I'm going to warn you right now. I mentioned before, right? I'm going to do some editing here. Maybe I didn't mention it. Maybe I edited that out, right? In any event, I'm going to be editing this video because ChatGPT-4 is very, very advanced and very slow. So I'm going to show you some parts of what happens when we're using the model, but then I'm going to fast forward so you don't have to worry about like sitting through it. It's like watching grass grow to some degree. But GPT-4 with these models, how about this? I'm going to say here, show me 10 headlines from recent newspapers about traffic accidents in the US, and also a publicly accessible, and let's say this, for every headline, show me a publicly accessible data source using, in CSV or Excel format that I can download and use to analyze traffic accidents. Show me the headlines and sources in a table with 2 columns. Now, this is a sort of sophisticated query that you can do to ChatGPT with the GPT-4 model. Now, when it sees that I want headlines, you can see it's thinking for a while here. When it sees that I want headlines, it's going to be like, oh, wait, headlines. If I'm going to use headlines, I'd better go use a plugin. And look at this. It says using world news. So it first had to interpret what I was asking it. That's a prompt, by the way. People are talking all the time now about prompt engineering. First, I interpret what I was saying. It asks world news, and it says, here are the top headlines about traffic accidents in the US. And it's going to go and like give me this information here. All right, and it's going to give me the links, but it's not really giving me links to data sources, is it? No, it's not. So I'm going to say, well, I'm going to give it a chance to do a little bit more, but then I'm going to tell it to stop generating. Now, there is a danger here, and the danger here is that when you are using GPT-4, you only get 25 queries every 3 hours. So you've got to be very thoughtful and careful about what you're doing. So I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to say, create a 2-column table in which the first column contains, let's say, a 2-column table, let's just say with 5 rows, in which the first column contains a headline about traffic accidents or problems in the United States from US newspapers, and in which the second column contains a link to a publicly accessible CSV or Excel dataset, let's say just a CSV dataset, relevant to the article you brought up. Let's see if this does it a little better. All right. Now, Noteable. Why is it using Noteable? Well, actually, it's because I asked for a data set. So actually, it's going to give me some trouble here. I'm going to tell it to stop generating. And by the way, we can go look. What did it send to World News? And you can see, I'm just going to scroll up here. It said traffic accidents in the US. So these are the responses it got back from World News. And you can see it's all in JSON format. So we can see sort of behind the scenes what's going on. And Noteable, it's saying here, okay, I'm going to create a new notebook. And you can already then see some interesting stuff here. But this is like really not what I wanted. So let's try this once again, one last time before I go back to prompts that I've used in the past. Create a 2-column table with 5 rows, which the first column contains a headline about traffic accidents, and in which the second column contains a link to a publicly accessible data set. Okay? Do not use Noteable or create a Jupyter notebook. Rather, just show in the second column a link to the CSV file that I can download if I wish. Okay, let's see how it does now. Sure, here are the headlines and corresponding data sources. Okay, look what it's doing now. Now it's finding me headlines. Now, this already is extraordinary, right? This is the sort of research that grad students have done for their advisors for years and years. And so what it's doing is it's finding, right, headlines, and it's finding a data source, and it's giving me a link to that data source. Already pretty darn amazing. Okay, here we go. And we've got our 5 rows, and it gave it to me. You may need to sign up request access. Okay, that's fine. Now, if I hover over this, we're going to see that this is like data sets, US accidents, fatality analysis. By the way, I know this is kind of morbid, but fine. So let's now see if we can use this to create a Jupyter notebook. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, using the data at, and I'm going to just copy. Actually, let's go into a tab here. Let's just see what we got. And here you can see there is CSV here that we can download. This data is provided in terms of a CSV file. Let's see if I can download it somewhere. Download, you're going to use it. Okay, fine. So I'm going to download the data from here. So I'm just going to copy that. Actually, I'm just going to click on this and see what we've got. Oh, now we've got to download it. So that's probably a little big, 200 megabytes to force into this. So let's go back and look at the next thing. All right, here, let's go here. This is why I always like to get multiples. Okay, so we've got here our mission. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay, let's see if I can just go into Fred. I'm gonna shortcut this here. So first of all, I think it's pretty darn amazing that we can get this information back in ChatGPT. It is pretty amazing. So let's look at traffic accidents. And the reason I'm using Fred is just because I don't really care. Like, I don't care. I don't know why I'm so stuck on traffic accidents. I just want to get data here. And Fred from the St. Louis Fed gives me a lot of data. So I've got data here, right? I didn't get it from my chart. Fine. I'm going to fire that research assistant, $20 a month. I can get another one for a same price. But here I've got information about freight, rail, intermodal traffic. Do I really know what that is? No. Am I interested in it? Quite possibly. Here's the thing. Fred can give me a lot of interesting information. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find this, and then I'm going to find here the federal funds rate, which is like the interest rate that you have to deal with. That's what we talk about when we talk about interest rates that the Fed is setting, the Federal Reserve in the US. So here I've got this data set. Here I've got this data set. So here's what I'm going to do. So download the data from, and I'm going to give it this URL. Sometimes it's okay with figuring out the URLs on its own. Sometimes it's not. And turn it into a Jupyter notebook in Noteable. All right. Then I wanted to get the other one. Here, download this. All right. Then download information from here and put it into a second Jupyter notebook in Noteable. Then, now, why would I want to do both of these, right? So this is going to show me the traffic. This is going to show me the federal funds rate. Then join these two data frames together and create a line plot using Seaborn showing both of these data sets across the years. This is where the magic is going to happen, friends. Because what is it going to do? It's going to download the data from one. It's going to download the data from the second. It's going to join them together, and it's going to know to join them together on the years. And then it's going to do a line plot. Well, at least that's the plan. Now, there are going to be, or there are possibly going to be some problems with this. Problem number one is that it often doesn't know which space I want to use in ChatGPT. In Noteable. So if it gives me problems like that, then I'll need to go in here and I'll need to copy this part of the URL and tell ChatGPT, hey, I want you to use this, and you have to give it that. You can't give it the name of the of the space you want to use, of the project you want to use. Rather, you have to give it that set of hex codes. Now, what is it doing with Noteable? What is it sending? Well, it's saying here, we're going to create a new notebook. So create a new notebook name, okay? And it says here the user can follow along with your cell. That was in the first one. In the second one, it says we're going to download this data. See, I didn't have to tell. I mean, it says import pandas as PD. Again, this is all in JSON, so we can sort of kind of look at what it's doing here. It's saying that it wants to download all this information. Then what does it do? It's going to download into, oh, it's into a separate one. Oh boy, okay. Gotta be really good at this stuff here. All right. It might have been able to join them together, but I'm a little skeptical. So I'm going to just stop it there. I'm going to say here, I'm going to say download it into a Jupyter notebook. Then use then download into, oh, I said a second Jupyter notebook. You know what? The problem is not ChatGPT. The problem is me. Into the same Jupyter notebook, but a different Pandas data frame. My bad. All right, now let's let it go. See, now people are saying that maybe, just maybe, we won't need programmers anymore because people will be able to describe what they want to ChatGPT and then programs will be obsolete. But as you can see, you have to specify it really, really carefully to know what's going on. So what's it doing now? It's sending a request, right? And saying, I want to download from this URL. You can see, here's the URL. It's going to read the CSV. It's going to set this. Here we go. And then it's going to, look at this, convert the date column to date time format. It's doing this in both of my data frames. Would you know to do that? Maybe, but it knows how to do that. Then it sets the index for both of them to be the date. Then it joins them together. And the response is all this stuff together. The kernel is ready. And then what is it going to do? And then it's going to import Seaborn and it's going to run it. And in just a few moments, we are actually going to be able to compare these. Here is the line plot. It's showing me the line plot and I can access it. Now, how is it that it knew where to actually plot things? Well, how does it know? How does it know which Jupyter notebook to use? Because I'd already set my project in the past. Again, if you need to set the project, you just get those hex codes from there. Now, I have to say, these two pieces of information are completely irrelevant to one another. And yet, this is pretty darn amazing as far as I'm concerned. I gave it some text. I said, download data from here, download data from there, join them together and produce a line plot. And I said I wanted to have a line plot in this way. And that's what it did. Now, this is very nice, but can I see the Jupyter notebook that it did? Absolutely, I can. We go in here. Less than a minute ago, this was changed. And you can see, here's the URL it downloaded this from. Here's the URL it downloaded that from. Here's where it did all of the Pandas stuff. And here's where it imported Seaborn. Wait a second. Oh yeah, here we go. SNS line plot. For a moment, I thought it was lying to me and not doing it in the correct way. Now, what if I want to do some other kind of plot, right? I mean, what if I want to, I mean, there's so many ways that we can do things. And because I told to do a line plot, that was fine. What if I say, now create a histogram of Fed funds rates so that I can see, over time. Well, let's just say Fed fund rates. Let's just do that. Keep it nice and simple. It's going to know, or it should know, which of these data frames it should pull things out of and how to create a histogram. Now, what is it doing when I say use Noteable? Look at this. It's going, it's thinking, it's doing. And here's the histogram of the Fed's fund rate. Look at that. It did it. And now if I go back into my Jupyter notebook, you will see it added it here in the background. And you'll also see it used SNS hisplot. In other words, it knows that I prefer to use Seaborn, and thus it's going to use Seaborn for that. Now, I'm going to stop here. But from my perspective, this is one of the most extraordinary, amazing things ever. I can basically go into ChatGPT now. I can ask it to find me headlines and data sources, assuming that those data sources are actually CSV files and not just links that I have to then, well, obviously I gave bad examples here. You can then give it those URLs. It will download them and it will then incorporate them. In fact, watch this. What if I'm just going to try one last thing here because you never know. Oh no, this is like too big. 2 gigabytes of travel information. I'm not doing that. All right. So not only has this been a fantastic advertisement, I guess, for ChatGPT Plus and for Noteable, but it is just mind-blowing to me now what we can do from within ChatGPT, how we can describe things, how it takes what we say literally, how we're able to create plots and graphs, and how we can modify what we want and then get amazing results. This is not the last video that I'm going to be doing. I just wanted to get this out there because my mind has been blown so much over the last few days. Please, if you have suggestions, comments, thoughts, put them in the comments. I want to hear from you. I am going to be experimenting with this a lot. I'm also going to be using it in this week's Bamboo Weekly because, like, how can I not? Bamboo Weekly, if you're not aware, is my newsletter on Substack where I take topics from current events, I analyze them using Pandas, and I'm always trying to find new functionality in Pandas as well as interesting things in current events. If this isn't new functionality that we should be playing with, I don't know what is. Folks, I hope to hear from you. I'll be back soon with another video, probably with more ChatGPT stuff. Talk to you soon. Hope to see from you in the comments.